Hello, everyone, and welcome to another SnodaReel. I am your host, BlackShaft56, and I am, of course, joined by the one, the only, DimondAssassin, aka Lewis.
What's up, everybody?
And today we're going to go ahead and try and talk about the rise and possible fall of all these streaming services, primarily Netflix. So, if you haven't noticed, Netflix has actually reported a lot of money lost when it comes to how they handled the whole password sharing thing, and even Disney Plus has actually said that they have seen I believe it was like a 4.1 million subscriber loss to
Yeah,
their service, and
it was like in
you
the
know,
month of October of last year,
I
like
believe so.
from December.
If I'm not mistaken, yes, I believe so. But I just wanted to go ahead and touch up on this, and Lewis obviously did too.
Yeah,
And we just wanted to kind of go into why we feel like this has gone down. I honestly would like to start with the whole when it comes to Netflix, you can 100% argue that basically their whole model is throw money at it, see what sticks. If it sucks ass and it doesn't get viewership, immediately cut it. And that's not a very good business model. You can ask Disney, which has been kind of losing a lot of money since then too.
oh yeah,
So, um, you would obviously think that they would have a subscriber boom with Netflix. However, a lot of on Netflix because of COVID-19, but it kind of actually it did boost up, but it so quickly fell down, especially after they put in the change of password sharing, where you have to charge extra. And I think
100%.
honestly, it is just a 100% money grab, and it really shouldn't have been that way. You needed to not do that because that automatically makes people think, oh wow, they just want my money. Well, fuck you.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
if I can't share passwords with somebody else, even though, yeah, technically it's illegal in their contract, it's still one of those things. Is like it's gonna happen. You're gonna, and if you don't do that, you're gonna end up with a shitload of piracy.
people are still
And
gonna pirate either way. There's no
exactly,
stopping it.
exactly. So that's one of those things. It's like even Disney, who is money hungry like crazy, even they knew, yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah,
But they have stated that they do want to try to look and see if other people are in the same household for the logins. Even Hulu's doing it. I don't
I,
know.
I,
It's a
I,
slippery
I don't
slope.
know. I feel like with Netflix in
Mm,
general, I mean, we've seen the rise, and we're now seeing the fall of Netflix.
exactly.
The fact that they primarily brought out shows that they wanted to see promise, and then they saw promise, and then they just out of nowhere were like, well, it doesn't follow our guidelines on what we're looking for, so we're just, even though it's being successful, we're just going to cut it entirely and not care about it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that, you lost money right there. Like, as a business standpoint, you lost a lot of money right there because you were making money from that successful show. And instead of like trying to promote and bring more of those shows, whether that be, a few seasons or not, you're putting out content that no one really cares about, no one really wants to watch,
Mhm.
and it's gonna stay there, for a very long time.
Absolutely, and I completely agree. Now, I would also argue that not every show needs 15 seasons. Not every show, not even one
Right.
season needs 13 episodes. You could argue that The Punisher would have worked better, I think, as like an 8 or 9 episode arc instead of 13 episodes
Yeah.
when it comes to the Netflix model. Because, and I granted, I know that they have kind of shied away from that. And they're also like everybody's kind of going into the weekly process because, well, each season's not 4 episodes,
Yeah.
so you're gonna automatically that's a hook, line, and sinker way to basically get people to pay for your service. And here's the problem with that is everybody was saying streaming is going to become the new cable. And the more that you do that, the more you're kind of proving their point with weekly releases. And don't get me wrong, I
Yeah.
like weekly releases because as much as I enjoyed binging shows, it's kind of like you lose your hype a shitload more when you're allowing people to just basically go, okay,
Here's
here's
full
everything,
access.
here's full access to the whole show. And then, yeah, obviously you're going to have more people that are going to be like, okay, cool. So I'll just pay for 1 month, watch whatever the fuck I want to watch. and go the fuck away.
Yeah.
And not everybody's going to immediately be enticed by everything that you have. So it's just one of those things. It's like I don't know. I can see it from a money standpoint of yes, we need profits, and yes, we can't just constantly have like 15,000 new accounts
Right.
that are only paid for 1 month and then gone.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things you can't consistently have that. And I would say Disney did it best, um, to a degree.
I
Whenever
mean,
they
it had
had
its
all their stuff,
hiccups.
it did. Like honestly, I don't think She-Hulk needed to be a weekly release. It really
Mm-mm.
didn't.
I think it just should have been just released completely, and
Yeah.
that's it. Like it.
Mandalorian is another one I would argue. At least season two, I would argue, did not need a weekly release. I would have argued that you could have released the entirety of season two and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Boba Fett was another one. I feel like that could have been like you can pick and choose which shows. Like if it's your flagship show, yeah, even if the season sucks, like I would argue Mandalorian works best as a weekly show.
Yeah.
Boba Fett, not so much. Andor, eh. Andor, what they did is they released it in burst. I believe they released like 3 episodes, 3 episodes, 3 episodes. Do the Amazon method
Yeah.
where you release 2 or 3 episodes every week, and then you not only do you get your shows done quicker, but you could okay, I say Amazon method. That's more or less what they did with Vox Machina. They did not do that with The Boys. They released the first 3 episodes and then they went to weekly each
I think
episode.
it just depends on contract too, because I mean, Vox
Mhm.
Machina is something that's a little bit more time consuming, and it should already be a done product because it's
Correct.
animation. So animation is a
Yeah.
little bit more lenient to being able to clean stuff up when in reality when you're doing filming like The Boys and having special effects and all these other extra stuff, it's kind of a little bit harder to like kind of
Mhm.
release all that at once.
Right. And I do agree with you wholeheartedly. Um, so, when it comes to stuff like, I would argue Peacock did not need to be a streaming service.
No,
It really didn't. Even if it's cheap, like it is arguably $5 is not that much to ask for a month. So,
right.
I would argue that. But it's just one of those things. It's like, what all do you really? The only thing that you really have on there is The Office and a couple of other
And
things.
like even like minimum, I know you're not a big fan, but I'm a big fan of wrestling, and even then, like it wrestling being on there,
Hmm.
I I really don't think it's like it's not good for it because of the fact of how each different streaming services has its different like ways of putting out content, especially because wrestling is one of those things it has to keep going consistently.
Hmm.
And I feel like with Peacock, there's only so much you can do, especially depending on your own company, um, and the limitations and rules and regulations on what they can and can't show. So,
Hmm.
wrestling has gone on. Well, not just wrestling, but just content in general in each services has gone in different routes of like it being maybe too explicit or maybe censoring or maybe switching it to something more medium.
Right.
And I feel like we're starting to with Netflix, I'm starting to wondering what else, like if all the other competitors are like looking at this and
Mhm.
realizing, oh crap, we need to start changing our terms, or we need to start changing a few things on our end if this is what's about to happen.
Right. And I do agree with you on that wholeheartedly. So I haven't really explored Peacock all that much. I do know that Psych is on there, which I love. I love Psych, and I know that they have the third movie on there, and it is a
Mhm.
Peacock exclusive, which is sad. It does sadden me, but it's fine. I
Yeah,
have a way of watching it.
yeah.
My landlord pays for Peacock,
Mhm.
and he has it logged in on the TV, so I can just use that, and and he's okay with me doing that. Whereas like I would argue probably it depends on your taste, but I would argue HBO Max is probably the best streaming service out there, not based on what they release. Obviously, like I mean, yeah, it's HBO. Why wouldn't
Yeah,
it's even their original slogan was it's not TV, it's HBO.
yeah.
So it's just one of those things. It's like I would argue that yeah, that makes perfect sense. Sorry, distracted over there. But yeah, I would argue that that makes perfect sense. So In my opinion, I use HBO Max more than anything. I will use Amazon Prime as well because they do have a lot of good content.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you already have Amazon Prime, that's where I would argue that is kind of genius because if you already have Amazon Prime, you get access to Prime Video.
Yeah, I think
So
that
it's
was a
just one of those things.
smart move with Amazon on that
Well,
point.
yeah, but they're pretty much the only one that can really kind of do it. Disney doesn't really have like I mean they have a store, but they don't have like you have to have a membership
Yeah.
and oh yeah, you get this and then you get Disney Plus. They don't have that. And also Amazon is for the most part ad free. Anytime there's an ad playing before an episode, you can always skip it. HBO
Mhm.
has done the same thing. So if you have the quote unquote ad free version, and I don't
Yeah.
believe there is a version of Amazon with ads, but there are free movies that are not on Prime but they're free with ads.
Yeah.
So I would argue Amazon probably has the best
Layout
model.
on
I wouldn't
how.
even say layout. I would just say model. I would say they had the best streaming model, and to be fair, they were kind of the first ones to really do it, aside from Netflix.
Yeah.
But when it was just them and Netflix, it was like okay, I
Well,
can
it's not
see
even them
the
and Netflix. It was more Netflix and Hulu. Well, yeah, because like
yeah
both of
Netflix,
them were like
Hulu, yeah.
that was the big
Netflix,
fight.
Hulu, and Prime was like the ugly stepchild, basically. But
Yeah, it was
with
slowly
a heart of
coming in.
gold,
Mhm.
Prime obviously has proven with Invincible, with The Boys. Prime has kind
Yeah.
of proven that they're willing to go for the hardcore stuff that
Yeah.
not everybody else would go for. Whereas like Netflix, yeah, they would go
Yeah.
hardcore, but they're more like oh binge worthy kind of things.
Yeah.
And you have that element into it. And then I would argue Hulu was just basically Fox. It was a lot
Yeah.
of the Fox property movies, and I love Hulu. I adore Hulu. I can use the fuck out of Hulu.
Yeah.
Now of course, anime already has their own kind of streaming
Anime
stuff.
has their own streaming services, and that's a whole
You have two options though, pretty
other
much.
topic.
You have Crunchyroll and you have Funimation, and it all depends on what your taste is. I kind of don't like Crunchyroll. I hate their layout. Don't get me wrong, Funimation's isn't that great either, but like
No,
I can at least respect Funimation.
on both services, a lot of people do not like Funimation services. They rather
Oh,
prefer
sorry, my
Crunchyroll
bad.
services.
I meant backwards. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Um, I have Funimation only because Funimation has all the Dragon Ball stuff, and I am
Yeah.
trying to currently watch Dragon Ball. And of course, I think Funimation also has all of Naruto. I believe it has One Piece.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so it has all of One Piece, but I mean, so does Netflix,
Yeah. Well,
more or less.
it's slowly getting through
Yeah,
there.
and I would argue Netflix has it like almost an easier way to watch. They have it in like chapters. Basically,
Mhm.
like here's chapter 1 through 50, and it's like, oh wait, there's two more. Fuck, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I kind of refuse to watch One Piece at least until it's done.
My thing is One Piece is it needs to be like you need to take your time with it. That's one thing as a fan like that I got into it is that you like if you're really not like a super fan or you're
Hmm.
trying to or you not even just that but you're trying to watch it in general and
Hmm.
you're afraid of like all the like 1,000 plus episodes, just watch it bit by bit because I enjoyed more of just enjoying the first part of the story before it starts
Hmm.
getting a lot more hectic
Okay, so
because
there
it's
is
more
that.
it's more important to enjoy that process because you're basically learning from like obviously later on in a few episodes you learn more details about everybody's backstory but you really just appreciate for how when it first came out like those few episodes
Mhm.
and it's a really well done like story.
Yeah, but I would still argue with when it comes to back to like the Netflix and everything else
Yeah.
like that. I would still say like Netflix did a really good job on like gathering as many animes as they physically could. And I would
Yeah.
argue Disney's kind of doing the same thing with
Disney's
Hulu at least.
trying
Well,
they're
yeah.
trying to Disney's right now is trying to and like how everybody was talking about it trying to basically own all the shonen product. So that's Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, My Hero, anything that has to do with the shonen category. they're trying to get their hands on it, and
Mhm.
because they're just noticing, or I think they have noticed, but I think they didn't know if they would be able to jump on it or not, and now
Mhm.
it seems like through people talking and stuff that they might be 100% interested in trying to take over the anime aspect of the streaming services, which is kind of a little bit scary when you think about it.
Well, if Netflix is going to crash, which I have a feeling it's all but pretty much doomed, I would say if you start working at Netflix, I would probably jump ship just to be safe.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I'm sure they've been in worse situations, but however, what they're kind of doing is they're kind of refusing to really change,
Yeah.
and that was the ultimate flaw of Blockbuster, I would argue. As much
100%.
as I would love Blockbuster to come back, and I think honestly, with all the streaming overload, I think you could somebody could trick somebody else into being like, well, what if you had like a permanent pop up, basically,
Yeah.
like, hey, this is a place you can come in, you can basically pay a fee. Just basically make it Blockbuster, and I would love if Blockbuster would make a comeback. Basically become a
I mean,
glorified zombie. I would love
I
that.
mean, there still is one, and
Nope, it closed.
oh, it closed
Hmm.
completely. Oh wow.
It was self owned, and they had to file for bankruptcy.
Oh wow.
They couldn't afford it anymore. Oh well. Um, they just, I mean, they would sell T-shirts and snacks and everything. Like they really did try, but they just nah.
Yeah.
But I think Netflix is ultimately going to go the way of Blockbuster. I think it's going to be like, wow, you were a great foundation for all this
Everybody
stuff.
else.
However,
Yeah.
everybody else is like, well, we have a new, better way to do it. And I would argue Disney is probably going to be the next one to go. Even though they have Hulu, I think Disney just kind of jumped into it a little too quick. And I think, honestly, if you just kind of kept it with Hulu, you're probably not going to regret anything. Plus, I mean, Disney already owns Hulu, so they can just basically move one box over to the other box and be okay.
Yeah.
You would just, like, honestly, let's say they do it at the end of the month. They'd be like, hey, look, Disney Plus is ending. You're no longer going to be charged for it. All we're charging is Hulu and ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
So I think that's
I don't know.
ultimately what's happening.
I think they're well on the Disney side. I don't think they're done yet. I
I don't
think
think they're done yet, but they're gearing up towards it.
I think they're probably going to have a planned action on maybe changing their content, and I
Mhm.
think that will be the majority of what will happen. Whether they just
Mhm.
completely just say, "All right, we're done with Disney Plus," or the changes will improve their subscriptions. And it's
Yeah.
kind of hard right now to tell
Mhm.
because at the moment they're like just not just in streaming services, but just in general right now where we are. I feel like we're in a stalemate with like content, like with movies and series right now. I feel like right now we're in the process of like everything is hush hush. Everything is like trying to prepare for a big just explosion of new content whatsoever throughout
Well,
shows and movies.
mhm. So I will also say this, kind of getting back onto HBO Max, because I know that we're mostly focusing on Disney and
Yeah,
Netflix, and because those are the two, and those are the biggest two in the headlines, at least as of this recording. We don't know when this is coming out. I'm going to be
yeah,
perfectly honest with you, but it could be coming out next week. It could be coming out 2 weeks from now. We don't know. Stay tuned. But uh, anyways, so I would still say that, when it comes back to HBO Max, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I heard that the Discovery Warner, it's like Discovery still owns Warner Brothers, but
yeah,
they're no longer doing the Discovery Plus and Warner and HBO Max Plus,
yeah.
or the HBO Max combination. I believe that they're also planning on just changing it to Max.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I like the sound of HBO Max, or
Hmm.
honestly, you could just call it HBO.
Yeah,
I don't know. Just calling it Max is way too vague, and I don't
yeah.
I don't like it. So, I think that's a stupid name. You could still keep it HBO Max. You just need to change a few things
Or
here and
just
there.
HBO. That's it. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. So like, I mean, I would say keep it within that pocket. Still keep HBO in the name. That way, people, or what you could call it Warner Brothers Max,
yeah,
and that would make perfect sense. But then people be like, well, what happened to HBO Max? It's like, well, it's still HBO Max. We just changed it to Warner Brothers
yeah,
or Warner Brothers Plus, or something along those lines. Yeah, then Warner Brothers Plus would be a little bit too much, but I
yeah.
still think like Warner Brothers Max would be
Hmm.
fine because it is a Warner Brothers company. I mean, HBO is owned by Warner Brothers,
Yeah.
so
So I'm wondering, like, with Paramount, like, why didn't it like go within Warner Brothers? Because technically, Nickelodeon and all that, like,
Nickelodeon isn't owned by Warner Brothers. Cartoon
oh,
Network is.
oh, Cartoon Network is.
Cartoon Network is. That's why all the
Okay.
Adult Swim stuff is on HBO Max.
Okay.
All Cartoon Network and all HBO are all Cartoon Network and Adult Swim are on HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
All of
Yeah, yeah.
Nickelodeon is on
Paramount.
Paramount because Paramount owns Nickelodeon. Paramount's actually still one of the it's one of the few companies that hasn't been like major production companies that has not been bought out
I
by
feel like
either
it's
Disney or Warner Brothers.
yeah, because I feel like it's not like no one's talking about like not in the sense like in a bad way, but no one's talking about it like in a sense of like it's dying or it's like
It's
neutral. It's
staying
at a
afloat.
neutral. Yeah.
It's staying afloat basically, and I would still say that Paramount actually has some really good shows. Like obviously everybody talks about Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Everybody would also talk about, I believe it was, what is that new Stallone show, Tulsa King. I've been hearing a lot of good things about that, even though it's basically another glorified gangster show, but still, Mayor of Newark, I believe is what it's called. That was not bad from what I saw.
Hmm.
um Obviously, I mean, Paramount is definitely milking Yellowstone because they know that the main show is going to be ending soon because Kevin Costner
Hmm.
has been saying like, "Hey, I'm done after this. You can either kill me off or the show's done."
Yeah.
He's saying I'm kind of retiring and everything else like that, which perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. I think Paramount is just staying afloat because they do have good stuff. Now, the other stuff that they have obviously is like Star Wars. They do have a couple, or not Star Wars, Star Trek. They do also have a couple of
I mean, you have your classic
reality shows.
retro cartoons that are the thing
Well,
that's
yeah,
like
yeah,
keeping it
yeah,
up
yeah.
too.
Well, Nickelodeon as well, and yeah, I do argue that. My parents actually got rid of Netflix for Paramount because I already had HBO.
Hmm.
Well, granted, they already have HBO as well, but they don't have HBO Max. I don't think.
Yeah.
That's one of those things, and honestly, I don't care. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. It's like I don't know. I don't think streaming is going to go away anytime soon, just because everybody's way too comfortable with it now. Unless the internet shuts down, in which case, it's nice knowing you guys.
Yeah.
Um, you know, good luck ever talking to anybody ever again, minus phone calls. But it's just one of those things. It's like I don't think until internet dies out that streaming is going away. In all
Yeah.
honesty, I believe streaming is going to replace physical media. Hence the reason I have all that physical media over there. Um,
Yeah.
hold on, let me fix my camera a little bit better. But yeah, hence the reason I have all that physical media over there. And, you know, it's just one of those things. I think eventually we are going to have nothing but streaming. Like, I think as much as I hate it, I think theaters are going to go away.
Theaters are
Um,
gonna go away. Like it was a
and I
scare
hate
whenever
it.
the pandemic happened. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
it
like it's
pains
done.
me. Yeah, and it pains me to say that because I actually love going to the
I
theaters. I
love
know it's gotten expensive, but
yeah, I no okay, like if you genuinely look at like just not even getting popcorn or drinks or just watching the movie and going there and having a good time.
Mhm,
That's I mean that's the whole point of it.
mhm.
Obviously the whole like snacks and drinks and stuff that's kind of like a plus and like also kind of like a side thing of like so they can earn more money as
My
a
thing
business, but
is when you are going into theaters, and we'll kind of wrap it up after this. Just we'll will either say a few more things, but I do want to say this about theaters.
Mhm.
So AMC has actually come up with a new business model where you're going to have to pay higher or lower prices depending on where you sit.
Yeah.
And it's stupid. I really do. I'm not a fan of that idea just because of course the most expensive seat is going to be the seats that I always like, which is dead center of the theater.
Yeah.
That's where the theater testers test everything. It's not too far away, or it's not too close or too far away from the speakers. Same thing with the screen. It's dead center. You're going to get the best experience ever if you can get that. But of course, they're going to make that the most expensive seat. And I'm okay with that. That's
Yeah.
fine. But I mean, the biggest thing is like, don't change the price on tickets. I don't mind paying $11 for popcorn.
Yeah.
That's fine. If you gotta bump up the popcorn price, perfectly
And I
fine.
mean, like,
I'm okay with that.
I
Don't
don't,
bump up my tickets.
I don't think that there was ever a problem because I remember I think we had the AMC like stub club or whatever
Well,
thing.
that's different. That is pure profit, but not enough people are getting it.
Yeah.
Because it is expensive. Whereas you don't get the free ticket, but you essentially can get Premiere, AMC
Hmm.
subs Premiere, which is what I have for $15
Yeah.
a year, and I don't have to pay mine until next year. And I haven't had to pay an AMC Premiere account for about 3 years now because I apparently paid for 3 years. So and I plan on doing that again. If I can pay for it every 3 years, I can pay for it every 3 years.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. That's only $45,
I mean, in
and that's
reality, how
nothing.
much like it's like how much do you we I feel like we all rarely go to this movie, so
Well, ever since I moved out, I essentially started going to the theaters less and less because of bills and everything
Mhm.
else like that. But I still love going. If I can go
Yeah.
by myself, I'll go by myself. But I like going with people. It's
Yeah.
it's an experience.
I know
It's
I
just one of
I've
those
I've
things.
I think last year I've had that experience of like going to the movies by myself, like without my parents or family,
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
was a little weird to me. Like I won't gonna lie, it was a little
It's
weird, but it was
weird.
also
Mhm.
exciting too. I was very excited.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's weird, but you get used to it very quickly. You don't have to worry about buying anybody else snacks. You don't have to worry about buying anybody else's ticket. You don't have to worry about paying them back for a ticket or paying them back for snacks.
Yeah.
You just basically worry about yourself, and it's great. You know, um, that's why I don't mind going by myself. But when it's like big event movies, I want to go with somebody because I know if
Yeah.
I'm hanging out with a friend, I'm like, hey, look, I got nothing better in mind. I got a little bit of cash. Do you want to go see a movie? And
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. So it's just I don't know, but I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. And this
Well,
was
like
yeah. Go ahead.
final thoughts
Yeah,
on
final
just
thoughts.
like
Yeah.
everything. I really don't believe that Disney will like Disney Plus is going to die. I mean, it like I said, it really just depends on what their next just actions and planning and
Hmm.
stuff with everything. Netflix is 100%. It's completely done. Like I think I give it about maybe like either this year or next year. You think 5 more years?
They have enough money to keep afloat for 5 more years, but we're gonna slowly either see the price increase and the subscribers go down, or we're gonna slowly see less and less content on Netflix.
Yeah,
I I give it 5 years because sometimes that's how long it is, or it could get bought out. And I have a feeling it's probably going to be bought out by somebody. I think I don't know. I think Warner Brothers would handle Netflix relatively well, but they already have their own. So I think they're going to try to get bought out, and then that's what's going to take them
I
as
feel
long
like
as
they
it's
would
going
get their catalog is the main thing.
to.
Some
I
of it.
think they
Well,
would
some
try
of
to
it,
sell their
not
catalog.
all of
Yeah.
it.
Well, yeah, I think they would definitely try to sell their catalog, like sell the rights off to Stranger Things, assuming that Stranger
Yeah.
Things still wants to be created, sell the rights off to a lot of the movies and everything else like that.
Yeah.
I think it could work ultimately. Um, but that's our thoughts. Please let us know in the comments below what you think about streaming. And this has been a SnodaReel. I've been BlackShot56. I've been joined by DimondAssassin.
So
And we will see you all later. Be sure to check out the SnodaCast on Saturdays at 7 p.m. CST. Central Standard Time for those that don't know abbreviations. And we will see you all later.